Hey everyone, welcome back. We talk a lot about digital marketing for funeral homes, but today I want to look at this blog post from Director's Corner. It's all about humanizing your brand and why it's so important, like crucial these days.
Yeah, it seems like they're really onto something, This whole authenticity thing, it just makes sense to me.
Right.
I mean, funeral service is so personal
Yeah.
and family are looking for that connection, especially online.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. When you're grieving, you don't want some big corporation.
Right.
You're looking for someone who understands you and someone that you can trust, to take care of your loved one.
Yeah, and that's where this idea of humanizing your brand comes in, I think. It's
Yeah.
letting families see the people behind the business, the heart of your funeral home.
Right.
And Director's Corner, they have some really interesting strategies for doing that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to hear what you think about them.
Yeah, me too. They emphasize that it's not just about like putting on a friendly face.
Right.
It's got to be a deeper change in how you approach everything online.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the first things they talk about is storytelling. They
Okay.
say you should share the story of your funeral home,
Mm-hmm.
like its history and its values, maybe even the challenges you've overcome.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just give families a little peek behind the curtain and let them see that you're not just a business. You're a group of people who are passionate about serving the community.
Right. And it becomes more personal, right?
Exactly.
Like maybe it's a family business that's been around for generations.
Yeah.
Or maybe your team all came together because they had this shared vision,
Yeah, right.
for compassionate care or something.
Whatever it is, sharing that story, it helps families connect with you on a deeper level.
I could see that, yeah. Like if I was walking into a funeral home for the first time,
Yeah.
knowing a little bit about its history
Mm-hmm.
and the people who work there,
Yeah.
I think that would definitely make me feel more at ease.
Absolutely. It's about building that trust and that sense of familiarity, which is, so important during a difficult time.
Absolutely. So storytelling, that's one piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
What else does Director's Corner talk about?
Well, another big one is showcasing your team.
Okay.
And again, it's not just about listing names and titles,
Right.
but giving families a glimpse into who these people are,
Right.
why they chose this profession,
Mm-hmm.
what makes them talk,
So you're saying bring those names to life.
Exactly.
So instead of just John Smith, funeral director,
Right.
it's more like John has been serving families for 20 years, and he's passionate about creating meaningful farewells that honor each person's life.
Yeah, exactly. And they say go beyond just the bios,
Okay.
Maybe you have a meet the team section on your website
Right.
with photos and fun facts about each staff member,
Uh-huh.
or like a blog series where you interview different team members about their work and what they find rewarding about it.
I could see that making a big difference.
Yeah.
It helps families see that you're not just a corporation.
Right.
You're real people who care about their work.
And they actually say it's okay to be a little informal.
Really?
Like let your team's personality shine through,
Mhm.
makes you more relatable and approachable.
That's interesting. So it's like finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
between being professional
Hmm.
and also having that genuine human connection.
Exactly.
I feel like that's something a lot of funeral homes struggle with, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like how do you show compassion and empathy
Right.
without seeming too sentimental or unprofessional?
It's a tough one, and I
Yeah.
think Director's Corner acknowledges that it is a delicate balance.
Yeah.
But they also say that people can spot inauthenticity right away,
Really?
especially when they're grieving.
Wow.
So it's better to be genuine, even if it means being a little less formal than you're used to.
So err on the side of genuine.
Yeah, that's what they seem to be saying.
Okay.
And they have some pretty compelling arguments. They talk about how families today are much more informed. They
Right.
do their research online, they read reviews,
Uh-huh.
and they compare different funeral homes.
So you can't just rely on a fancy website anymore.
Well, no, not at all.
They want to see the heart.
They want to know who they're trusting their loved one to.
Yeah.
They want to feel confident that they're making them the right choice.
It makes you realize how important this human element really is.
Yeah,
Because we think about marketing as selling,
right.
but in this case, it's more about building relationship.
Exactly. It's about creating connections, fostering trust, and showing that you truly care.
And you can't fake that.
No, you can't. It has to come from a place of authenticity.
I'm really curious about this idea of transparency
Oh, yeah.
that they keep talking about.
Uh-huh.
It seems like they're saying that funeral homes should be more upfront about pricing and services,
Yeah.
which can be a really sensitive topic.
It can be, but they make a good point, Nobody likes surprises.
Right.
especially when they're grieving.
Hmm?
So being clear about what you offer and how much it costs
Mhm.
can actually help families feel more at ease.
Takes away the anxiety of the unknown.
Exactly. And they suggest, making this information easy to find on your website.
Yeah.
Maybe have a pricing page or an FAQ section that answers common questions about costs and services.
I like that idea because, a lot of people just don't like talking about money,
Yeah,
especially when it comes to death.
right.
But if you provide that information in a clear and sensitive way,
Yeah,
it could be a huge relief for families.
I think so too. It shows that you're not trying to hide anything
Right.
and that you're committed to being open and honest.
Yeah, this is all really interesting. So we've got storytelling showcasing your team and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that stood out to you from their blog post?
Well, they talk about the importance of engaging with your community
Okay.
in authentic ways.
Uh-huh.
Show that you're not just a business, you're part of the community.
So what kind of things are they talking about?
Like sponsoring local events,
Okay.
hosting grief support groups,
Oh, wow.
or volunteering for causes that align with your values.
Interesting.
It's about being present and showing that you care about more than just conducting funerals.
It's like being a good neighbor, right?
Exactly. And they say these actions can actually be more powerful than any advertising campaign
Really?
because they show your commitment to the community in a real, tangible way.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like all these little things you do, they kind of build up this bigger picture of who you are as a funeral home.
It's like saying, hey, we're not just here for the funerals, we're here for the life of our community.
Exactly. And I think that makes a big difference in how families see you.
Right.
You're not just a business, you're a partner in helping them navigate all of life's challenges.
Okay, so we talked about the why of humanizing your brand,
Right.
but now I'm wondering about the how.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do this? Where do you even begin?
Well, Director's Corner has some really practical advice.
Okay,
And one thing they say is that it doesn't have to be complicated or expensive.
that's good to hear because I think a lot of funeral homes might feel overwhelmed.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I have to redo my whole marketing approach.
Yeah, they really emphasize that it's more about making small changes,
Okay.
intentional changes that reflect your values and personality. Like I remember we were talking about storytelling earlier.
Yeah.
They say you should start by choosing a few key stories
Okay.
that really capture what your funeral home is about.
So instead of just listing your services,
Right.
you might tell a story about how you went above and beyond for a family.
Exactly. Or like highlight a time when a staff member made a special connection with a family.
Yeah.
Those kinds of stories, they connect with people on a deeper level.
They do.
And it shows that you're not just going through the motions.
Right.
You genuinely care about giving compassionate care.
And you can share those stories in so many ways.
Right.
Website, blog posts, even on social media.
Exactly. Imagine you have a Facebook post that says, "Today we remember Mrs. Smith, whose love of gardening brought joy to our whole community. Her family asked us to incorporate sunflowers into her service, and it was a beautiful tribute.
Oh, that's so tough.
It's personal, it's heartwarming,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like you're trying to sell anything.
No, not at all.
It's just a glimpse into who you are,
Yeah,
and those little glimpses, they add up,
they do.
and they create this powerful impression over time."
So now, what about showcasing your team? We talked about that earlier.
Mhm.
And Director's Corner had some advice for going beyond the typical staff photo and bio.
It did. They suggested getting a little creative.
Okay.
Maybe do like a day in the life feature
I would like that.
where a staff member shares what they do every day
Mhm.
and what they find rewarding about their job.
That gives families a behind-the-scenes look
Yeah,
and helps them understand everyone's role
right.
in creating a meaningful experience.
And you could also do something fun like a staff spotlight,
Okay.
highlighting fun facts or hobbies,
Like what?
like maybe your funeral director is also a baker or your embalmer volunteers at an animal shelter.
That's a great idea. It just makes them relatable.
Yeah,
Shows that they're well-rounded people.
right. And visual content is key.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to use photos and videos to really bring these stories to life.
So speaking of visuals, Director's Corner also talked about technology
Right.
and how you can use it to humanize the funeral experience.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, I'm a little hesitant about technology
Really? Why?
because sometimes I feel like it creates distance
Oh, okay.
instead of bringing people closer.
I understand that, but they make a good point. It all depends on how you use it.
Okay.
If you use it thoughtfully and intentionally, it
Yeah.
can actually enhance that human connection.
So it's not about replacing human interaction,
No.
but making it more accessible and convenient.
Exactly, like they talked about virtual tours of your facilities,
All right.
which can be really helpful for families who can't visit in person.
Yeah, or for those who just want to get a feel for the place
Yeah.
before they come.
Exactly.
I've also seen some funeral homes offering online grief grief support groups,
Oh, that's a great idea.
which is such a valuable resource,
Yeah.
especially for people who might be feeling isolated.
It's a great way to use technology to reach more people
Right.
and provide support beyond the physical space.
Now, what about online memorial pages? I have to say I'm a little torn on those.
Yeah, why is that?
On the one hand, I can see how they can be a nice way for families to share memories,
Uh-huh.
but on the other hand, they just feel a little impersonal.
Yeah, I get it. I think the key is to see them as a supplement
Okay,
to the in-person experience, not a replacement for it.
right. And to make sure they're done in a way that's respectful and tasteful,
Absolutely.
because I've seen some that are more like ads than tributes.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not good.
No.
Okay, let's talk about transparency,
Okay.
which Director's Corner is really pushing for.
They are.
But it can be kind of tough subject in this industry.
It can be.
How can you balance giving people information
Yeah.
but not overwhelming them with details?
Well, they recommend using clear and simple language
Okay,
and easy to understand formats.
like what?
Like instead of hiding pricing info in long paragraphs,
Right.
make a table that outlines different services and prices.
That makes it easier for families to compare options.
Yeah, and it helps them understand everything without feeling overwhelmed.
Right.
And you could also have an FAQ section
Right.
that addresses common questions.
Like what?
Like, what if we need to change the date? Or can we personalize the service?
Mm-hmm.
Or what are the options for cremation?
I like that it anticipates people's questions
Yeah,
and gives them clear answers.
right. You know, a lot of people hesitate to talk about money.
Oh, yeah, especially when it comes to death.
Exactly, but if you can be upfront about it
Yeah.
in a way that's sensitive and easy to understand,
Mhm.
it can really help families.
It takes away the guesswork
Exactly.
and lets them focus on honoring their loved one.
Speaking of honoring loved ones, Director's Corner also talked about listening to families
Okay.
and understanding their individual needs
Right.
and how important that is for humanizing your brand.
Because it shows that you're not just a business,
Right.
but you're a partner who's there to listen and support them.
Exactly. It's not just about talking at people.
Right.
It's about having a real dialogue.
So asking questions like, what's important to you? How can we help you create a service that really honors your loved one?
Exactly. And being willing to adapt your approach based on what they tell you.
Right. Because every family is different.
Yeah.
And there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
It makes me think of that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, that's so true, especially in this industry.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about storytelling, showcasing your team transparency, technology, and listening.
Yeah, we have.
What else stood into you from the blog post? Yeah, it feels like we've talked about so much already, from storytelling and technology to transparency and the importance of listening.
Yeah.
But there was something else in the Director's Corner post that I think is a big struggle for a lot of funeral homes.
What's up?
Measuring success.
Oh, right.
How do you know if all this is actually working? Is it all about likes and shares?
Well, they actually say you shouldn't get too caught up in those numbers.
Really?
Yeah, like the vanity metrics.
Okay.
They say real success is about the impact you have on families.
Okay, so how do you measure impact? It's not like you can put a number on it.
Right. It's not about the numbers. It's about paying attention to the feedback you get.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage families to share their experiences,
Okay.
through reviews, testimonials, even just conversations.
I bet it's so rewarding to hear how you made a difference for a family,
Oh, absolutely.
especially during such a hard time.
Yeah, and those stories, those are powerful marketing tools.
Right.
Don't be afraid to share them on your website, social media, even in your printed materials.
It's like social proof, but with heart.
Exactly. It shows people that you're not just talking the talk,
Yeah.
you're walking the walk.
And don't forget about feedback from your own staff.
Oh, that's a good point.
What are they hearing from families?
Right. Are they noticing a change in how people see the funeral home?
Mm-hmm. Are families mentioning the personal touches or the genuine care they're getting?
Exactly. It's like checking in with your brand from the inside.
I like that. And you can also look at your website data.
Mm-hmm.
Are more people visiting pages about your team or your story?
Yeah. Are they spending more time on those pages?
It gives you some clues about what's working.
Definitely.
Now, we talked about social media before,
Right.
and I'm wondering what Director's Corner says about using it effectively,
Yeah.
because you don't want to seem like you're taking advantage of grief or being insensitive.
Right. Well, they say focus on content that's helpful and supportive
Okay?
instead of just promoting yourself.
So, like, what kind of things?
You could share articles about dealing with loss, inspirational quotes, or even nice pictures of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Things that evoke peace and reflection.
You could also highlight community events
Yeah,
related to grief support or end-of-life planning.
exactly. And remember, social media is all about interacting with people.
Right.
Respond to comments and messages. Be a source of comfort.
Be present.
Yeah, be present. Build those relationships and show your human side.
This has been so insightful. But I have to ask, what are some common mistakes funeral homes make when they try to humanize their brand?
Well, one thing they say to avoid is being too generic or impersonal,
Okay?
like using stock photos or templates that lack personality.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Right, you lose what makes you unique.
And you also don't want to focus too much on yourself
No,
and forget about the needs of the families.
it's about finding that balance, you know?
Between sharing your story and being a good listener.
Exactly. And lastly, don't underestimate consistency.
Okay,
Humanizing your brand isn't just a one-time thing.
right.
It's something you have to commit to.
Yeah, it's not just about changing your website or posting a few feel-good stories.
Right.
It's about weaving compassion and empathy into everything you do.
Beautifully said. It's about creating a culture of authenticity.
And it should come through online and offline.
Exact.
And you don't have to do everything at once.
Right. Start small.
Experiment.
Find what works for you.
The most important thing is to be genuine
Be compassionate.
and be there for families when they need you.
Well said.
Well, everyone, that wraps up our look at humanizing your funeral home brand.
Yeah.
Hopefully this gave you some things to think about
Some inspiration.
and some ideas for connecting with families in a more meaningful way.
Remember, it's not about being perfect.
It's about being real,
And creating a space, both physically and digitally,
where families feel seen, heard, and supported.
through those difficult times.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.